Well, good morning, Transplant Helper community. My name is Jim Merle, and today I want to pause for just a little bit and talk to you about how to handle those difficult situations. You know where you are right now. Maybe you're like I've been so many times. You're between that proverbial rock and an extremely hard place on the other side, a place where it seems like no matter which you turn, you potentially could make the wrong decision. I can remember back several years ago, pre-transplant, so this would have been for me 8.5 years ago, maybe, I was faced with a possibility of either receiving a heart transplant on the one hand or an LVAD on the other. Now, at that point, I had currently already been listed for heart transplant, but because of wait time had gotten rather long and because the doctors were really concerned with my declining health, they thought that putting in an LVAD at the time may have been my very best option. But the thing is, I didn't want an LVAD. I didn't want to have to go through the whole procedure, the whole surgery, the whole healing process. I didn't want to take a chance at the time of being removed from the list while I healed. There were a lot of reasons. I was just pretty much against having the LVAD done, at least at that time. And I've got other videos explaining that, and if you want to look into that, I'll link up there in the corners. Try to drop them in the description below, as well as maybe the end screen when we get down to it. But with that said, we oftentimes do, all of us do, get in very difficult situations where a real decision, life and death type decision even has to be made. And I want to share with you 3 suggestions or tips that hopefully you can use that will help you to be reminded of what you need to do and how you can make those decisions. So tip number 1, it starts with the letter I, and that is the word involve. Involve others to be a part of your care team. Now, obviously, when I'm talking about that, I'm talking about you involving your doctors, and they involve you. It's kind of a thing already, I think. I hope we assume that you as the individual, as the potential transplant patient, or maybe like I am the post-transplant patient, you are a tremendous part of your care team. So not only the doctors, the nurses, the coordinators, the technicians, everybody that's involved on the side of the medical field, you're as much involved in that as anybody. And I hope that when you're making these real decisions, these rock and a hard place decisions, that you are being involved in those decisions and that you've been given the opportunity and the liberty to sit down with your doctors and have totally open, plain talk conversation that you can understand, where you can lay out and say, okay, this is what I want to do. This is what I don't want to do. If this is what I don't want to do and you think I need to do it, can you explain to me why I should do it? And vice versa. You should be able to communicate with your team in that way. So involving others like your team is important. In addition to that, you need to be involving others in your family. Say, for example, your spouse. Say, for example, your child or your grandchild, or whatever the situation is. Say it's a sibling in your family, just whomever you have, a parent in the case of some younger people, anybody that's in your family, involve them in making these decisions. Yeah, maybe they don't know as much as you do. They certainly don't know as much as the physicians and the care team does, but allow them to be involved in that decision because they may bring some insight to that decision that maybe you weren't willing or able to bring. For example, when I was awaiting for transplant and I was being faced with LVAD that I didn't want, my wife, my spouse, was able to step in and say, hey, wait a minute, before you turn this down completely, keep in mind you're sleeping 16, 18 hours a day. Keep in mind you're not hardly able to, walk down the length of the hall and back. Keep in mind the things you're not able to do and how much you would love to do them. And if LVAD is a help with that, or if LVAD is a possibility of changing that, maybe you do need the LVAD. So she kind of had some insight in it, and other family members did as well. But the point is, you involve other people. Now, second to that, not only do you involve other people, the second word is you need to invite other people. Now, you say involvement, invitement. What's the difference? Well, those who are involved are those who were pretty much already going to be involved. That included you, your care team, your family members, that sort of thing. But those who you invite could be a whole different group. That could be someone outside of your family, outside of your care team. In essence, it could be a total stranger, but a specific kind of stranger. Like, for example, when I go to my clinic, UAB Hospital, Birmingham, Alabama, at any given clinic visit, They're a very big center, do a lot of heart transplants. That's what I had. A lot of other transplants as well, but a lot of heart transplants. And I can walk into the clinic any given day and immediately be seated in the room with no less than 40 to 60 heart transplant recipients and or people waiting for that. At the same time, among that number, to continue using the scenario of the LVAD, I'll be surrounded by 20 people who are sitting over there with LVADs. And so even though I may not know them and they may not be already involved in my case, I don't have a problem walking over them and inviting them to be a part of my case. You see, I assume if I see a person sitting across in the chair over there, if they've got an LVAD on, they know something about an LVAD. They have experience with that LVAD, and they can give really good advice as to what I need to know about the LVAD itself. So I will have no problem walking over to them. Hey, how's the weather looking today? And a nice day. Striking up with those common, useless, basically, conversations that we do, and then moving that conversation to the next level and say, hey, I've been asked about taking an LVAD in the next week or two or whatever the timeline is. I see that you have an LVAD. Can you tell me about your experience? And the thing about us transplant patients, if you'll ask us a question like that, tell me about your experience, tell me how it's going, tell me is it hard, is it easy, 99% of us will be completely honest and open. We'll give you the best advice possible, and we can tell you from the perspective of what I like to call been there and doing that. That is, we have wonderful information because we've been there and we're still doing that. And that is some of the best advice you can ever get. So you invite people then to be a part of the team that you already have involved, as in your family and your doctors. And then here's one more word to start with I to kind of cap it all off. Once your team, your family members, maybe some of these one-time strangers, I would call them friends now, have sat down and kind of had a little discussion over whether or not this procedure or this technique or this surgery is going to be right for you. After all of you have talked, then you go back to your physician and you allow them to make the final choice with the information you gathered, but you invoke, this is another I word, you invoke them that whatever that choice is, you want to get started. You don't want to put it off anymore. If you are sure about the decision you made, and hopefully between your team and your mindset and your family's mindset and these people you have invited to be a part of it, have brought in, these mentors have been brought in, hopefully between all those people, you can and have made a very well-educated decision. It's based on knowledge, it's based on principles, it's based on outcomes, it's based on statistics, it's just based on gut feeling. Then you want to invoke your team and say, look, doc, if this is what you think I need, and this is what I agree I need, and this is what my family says I need, then let's get it done. Let's get started. I always talk to people about beginning a new chapter in life. Well, the thing about beginning a new chapter in life is you can't begin a new chapter without a new word. And the word here needs to be 2 words, do it. Let's do it. Let's get it done and see if we can move on from this. So like in my scenario, the whole LVAD thing, if I had continued to had to face the LVAD and right up to the last minute, LVAD was the only option, and my transplant didn't come, which it did, I would have just had to say, let's do the LVAD. And I would have had to say, this is the day, let's take to the OR, let's do the LVAD, and let's get this done. And let's let that first word begin my new chapter. Let's let that first step be the first step of my journey, because you're going to need a first step for every journey as well. And hopefully your journey is going to be a great one. So just reminding us, what do we do? Number 1, involve your friends, family, and your team members. Number 2, invite. That is, bring in other members. Maybe they were strangers once, but they're friends now. And then number 3, invoke. Get things rolling. Get the proverbial ball rolling down the alley and make sure that you're headed in the right direction. I hope this has helped you out in some way. If it has, please give me a big thumbs up or a like. Maybe even hit the first subscribe button down beneath the video, and even the bell notification all beside that. That would be very much appreciated. And while you're here, you're already watching YouTube, so why not check out some of the videos that are going to be popping up all over the screen. And if you happen to see a little round looking button hovering there, that's the subscribe button. Give it a punch, and I would definitely appreciate it. But until next time, stay stronger, friends. But thankfully tonight I made a little bit of sense, at least I hope that I did. But I'm on Ambien, so if you see me looking crazy, yeah, I'm already on Ambien. But enjoy the video. Hopefully it was helpful. Hopefully it was helpful nonetheless.